Okay, we are now recording. Welcome to the Shiur in Pirkei Avos. We're in the middle of a Mishnah here in Perek Daled, the famous Mishnah that was said by Ben Azai, which we began last week and we're continuing with this week. We start the Shiur with the same beginning at every Pirkei Avos, Shiur Kol Yisrael Yesh Lahem Chelek Li'olam Haba. All of Israel has a share in the world to come. Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, "Va'amech kulam tzadikim," your entire nation is righteous. La'olam yirshu oretz, they shall forever inherit the land. Netzar mata'ai, they are the branch of my planting. Ma'aseh yodai lehispire, the work of my hands that I may be glorified, says Hashem. And the Jewish people have done everything they can to bring that glorification through the sanctification of Hashem's name. And one of the ways we do that is by acting responsibly, both in public and in private. Today, in the Daf Shiur, we learned that anything that is forbidden to do in the public domain because of Maris Ayin is forbidden even in the private domain. And from here we learn that there are things that are forbidden to do in public because they are Chilul Hashem. And we have the temerity to say that if someone in private does something that would be in public a Chilul Hashem, it's the same thing. And consequently, throughout our constant vigilance about caring about the name of Hashem, we obey the rules and regulations of Dina de Malchusa Dina. The law of the land is the law of the land, except when it infringes against the halacha, or when it infringes against our faith. But since none of the declarations and proclamations about people being socially distant, wearing masks and wearing gloves is nothing against our halacha. And even the laws that say don't daven with a minyan is not against the halacha. On the contrary, it is with the halacha, because the halacha is that one must be extremely careful about, number one, their own health, and even more so about someone else's health. Because if you don't care about someone else's health, then you're not obeying the basic principle of the Torah, which Rabbi Akiva openly stated, "Yahavta l'reacha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah." And when we go out with a mask, it's not so much that the other person's germs wouldn't come into us, because to be honest, we don't know if the mask does all that much, but it does prevent, if we are carrying something, it does prevent us from spreading the germs further. The mask does stop some of it. So we have to keep aware, have to be aware that it's important for us to do this, to make a Kiddush Hashem. We are on the Mishnah, Pirkei Avos, Perek Daled, Mishnah Beis, Ben Azai Omer. Ben Azai says, "Have a rutz l'mitzvah kalika v'chamura." We have to run to an easy mitzvah, like a hard mitzvah, a difficult mitzvah. Ubareach min ha'avera, and flee from an avera. Shemitzvah goreres mitzvah, because one mitzvah brings another mitzvah. V'avera goreres avera, and an avera brings another avera. We've discussed many times in the past week how this sentence is so apropos. We see this all the time. When one does one mitzvah, it leads them almost automatically into another mitzvah. Sheschar mitzvah mitzvah, uschar avera avera, because the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and the reward of an avera nebuch is an avera. I wanted to discuss tonight the concept of mitzvah kala. Run to a mitzvah kala and flee from an avera. You have to run to a mitzvah kala. Now, what does this mean when it says you have to run to do a mitzvah kala, an easy mitzvah, and run and flee from an avera? Last week in the parsha, not in this week's, the one before, Achrei Mos Kedoshim, at the end of Parshas Kedoshim, there's a Rashi, which is indicative of somewhat of a machlokes, somewhat of a discussion amongst our rabbis. There are two sides to this particular story. Rashi quotes this side, which we'll read in a minute. But I'm going to tell you what the other side says. The other side is actually a Gemara in Masechta Avodah Zarah. And that Gemara in Masechta Avodah Zarah, and Yud Zayin, not this, not Gimel. I'll get to Gimel later. It's on Daf Yud Zayin, in which the Gemara over there tells us about some of our rabbis, some of our Chazal, that they said, let's go and walk past a place of ill repute. Let's pass by this place which is frequented by people who don't obey the commandments and flaunt what they consider to be enticement to others. Let's go by there, the rabbi said, so that we should be enticed and then resist. And when we resist, we'll be getting reward for resisting the evil. So there is such an opinion that said, let's put ourselves in a position where we will be enticed into doing sin, and then because we're going to overpower the Yetzer Hara and we're going to resist it, we will get reward. Ben Azai comes along and he says, that is not the right approach. On the contrary, we see that David HaMelech himself said this himself to Hashem. He said, and it's brought down in the Gemara in Sanhedrin on Kuf Zayin, where David HaMelech said, test me. I'm telling you, I have the ability to resist. And we know all too well that David HaMelech was unable to resist. He didn't ultimately sin, but he did not succeed in resisting the impulse to do the Aveira. And consequently, Ben Azai comes along and he tells us we should always try the best we can to recognize that we should not succumb to the Yetzer Hara. We should not give in to the Yetzer Hara and put ourselves in a position where we think we can get away with it because of this beautiful Rashi that we're now going to read at the end of Parshas Kedoshim. And here, the Rashi says as follows. The Pasuk says, "Va'avdel eschem min ha'amim li yosli." I have separated you from all the nations to be for me. Rashi says, "Im atem muvdolim mehem," if you separate yourselves from them, harei atem sheli, then you are mine. V'im lav, harei atem shel Nebuchadnezzar v'chaveirov, then you belong to the other side. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah Omer. And now Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah comes along and he says, Minayin, from where do we learn? Shelo yomar odom, that a person shouldn't say, Nafshi kotza bebasa chazir. My soul is disgusted by the thought of eating chazir. EFG, Lilbos Kilayim, I couldn't possibly wear a garment that has shatnais, that has wool and linen mixed in it. Don't say that. Don't say I couldn't stand it. Don't say I don't want it. Aval yomar efshi. Admit it. I wouldn't mind seeing what the taste is. But, umma e'eseh, was kenichton? What can I do? Va'avi shebashamayim gozar olai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a decree against me. I can't do it. I'd love to do it. I just can't. Talmud Lomar. Therefore, the pasuk says, "Va'avdil eschem min ha'amim lihiyosli." I've separated you from all the nations to be for me. Shetehei daltem mehem lishmi. You are to separate for the sake of my name. Poresh min ha'avera. Separate from the sin and accept upon yourself the yoke of the heaven. So a person shouldn't say, I don't want to sin. A person should say, I want to, but I just can't. I won't bring myself to the point where I'm going to. And so Ben Azai is coming along and saying, Rotz le-mitzvah kala. Run to do an easy mitzvah. Stay away from the desire to do an aveira. Boreach min ha'aveira. Flee from it. Don't say, I want to go to a place with a serving chazir, so I should resist. Run away from there. Because the schar of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, while the schar of an aveira is an aveira. And the Magen Avos goes on to explain, what does this mean? Because the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and the reward of an aveira is an aveira. Look, let's say you want to argue like the people in the Gemara in Sanhedrin that says, let me put myself in that position, and then I'll resist, and I'll get reward. Let's analyze this. What are the two possibilities? Possibility number one, you're going to resist. You're going to resist. And so, when you resist, you think you're going to get a reward. What reward are you going to get? It's not like you did a mitzvah. You didn't do a mitzvah. What you did is you resisted an aveira. So what's going to be your reward? The reward is not a mitzvah. The reward is the resistance of an aveira. What's the other possibility? The other possibility is that you won't be able to resist. And you'll succumb, and you'll give in, and you'll be caught in the trap. And then you'll really be in trouble, because one aveira is going to bring another aveira. So Ben Azai comes along and he says, oh, use your head, Rabbi say. Use your head, Jewish people. Have a rotz le-mitzvah kala kavachamura. Run to do an easy mitzvah. Run to do it as if it was a hard mitzvah and go and get the reward. Go and do it. When it comes to an aveira, run away from it. Don't go say, maybe I should put myself in that position and maybe I'll be able to resist. Run away from it, and I'll tell you why. Because schar mitzvah. Because mitzvah goreres mitzvah. One mitzvah brings another mitzvah. Okay, so let's say I run to an easy mitzvah and I do it. What's going to happen? It's going to bring another mitzvah, and I'm going to bring another mitzvah. What happens if I run, however, and go to an aveira and then run away from it because I'm resisting it? What reward will I get? The schar aveira is only an aveira. The only reward I can get is the reward of not doing an aveira. So Ben Azai says, if you run to do an easy mitzvah, you're going to get the reward of doing that mitzvah. But if you run away from an aveira, the only reward you could possibly get is, I didn't do the aveira. Can you imagine someone coming to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he looks around when he gets to the Olam HaEmes, and he looks around, and he sees all his chaverim from his youth, or even from his middle age, or even from his older age, and he sees the chaverim that ran to do the easy mitzvahs, and he who put himself in the position of resisting all the averos, and he sees that they have a much more bekovedika place in the Olam HaEmes. They have a much more honorable spot, so to speak. Of course, we don't know how to measure this, but they seemingly have a more honorable spot. And he says to the Rebbeinu Shalom, he says, listen, Rebbeinu Shalom, I know these guys, they're all goody two-shoes. They do everything right. I know that. But did you see all the resistance I did against all the averos that I was, tempted to do? What about me and my reward? And Hashem says, what reward am I going to give you? The reward for not doing an avera? Yes, come to a kiss and ponim. You want to kiss for not doing the wrong thing? What kind of reward do you want for not doing the wrong thing? I told you not to do the wrong thing. You're not supposed to put yourself in a position where you're going to want to do the wrong thing and then hold back. The biggest reward you can get over there is only the reward for not doing the wrong thing. And that's why Ben Azai says, Schar mitzvah mitzvah. Because the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah. Uschar aveira aveira. And the best reward you could possibly hope for not doing an aveira is the aveira itself. That's all you can get. You can't get the reward for the positive commandment of the doing of a mitzvah. Now there is a Gemara which enlightens a little bit of this particular beginning of the Mishnah, which says, Heveirotz lemitzvah kala, kivachamura. Run to do an easy mitzvah. What's a mitzvah kala? What is that easy mitzvah? So there's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. You'll take a look. We're going to show now this Gemara on the bottom over here on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. I want you to take a look where it says about the third line down in the wide lines, starting with the word Amru Lefanov. It's in the middle of the line. It's the fifth word on the line. 3 lines down in the wide lines in the Gemara. What's happening over here, I'll tell you right now at the beginning of Masechet Avodah Zarah, is that the Gemara is talking about the ultimate reward when Mashiach comes to the world. And Mashiach, of course, is going to lead the Jewish people to great triumph. And the Jewish people are going to be at the top of the chain, so to speak, on the top of the world. And the Sion of the house of David HaMelech, the Mashiach ben David, is going to be the king of the world, and peace is going to reign. And the reward that is going to be given to them is beyond our understanding. At this point, the nations of the world come along and say, listen, God, we admit, we should have been nicer to the Jews, we should have been better behaved, but give us a chance. Give us a chance. Just one chance. We'll show you how good we could be. Give us a chance to get the reward you're giving every Jew. Give us a chance to participate in your goodness. We now know that you are the Hashem Echad U'Shmo Echad. Give us one chance, merciful Father in heaven. Give us a chance. That's the Gemara now. And let's read it. Amru Lefanov. They said before Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam, Hanach Lanu Meirosh. Give us a chance now from the beginning. Tano Lanu Meirosh. Give us now from the beginning the Naasena, and we'll do it. Give us a little bit, and we'll do it. Amar Lehen HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem says to them, we're now in the 4th line. Amar Lehen HaKadosh Baruch Hu, down from the wide lines. Shotim Sheba Olam. Fools you are. Mish, and this is a famous aphorism of Chazal. Misha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos Yochel B'Shabbos. Misha Lo Tarach Be'erev Shabbos Me'echen Yochel B'Shabbos. Hey, we can't cook on Shabbos. So Misha Tarach Be'erev Shabbos, someone who works Erev Shabbos and cooks and prepares for Shabbos, they're going to have what to eat on Shabbos. Misha Lo Tarach Be'erev Shabbos. But if someone doesn't prepare and bother on Erev Shabbos, what's he going to eat on Shabbos? And by the way, this doesn't mean, you'll excuse me, just the kugel and the cholent, you'll excuse me, or a nice chicken soup. This is not what it's referring to. This is referring to Harachaman Hu Yanchilenu Yom Shekulo Shabbos Umenucha L'Chaye Ha'olamim. May the merciful one give us the Yom Shabbos Umenucha, the ultimate Shabbos Umenucha. What's the ultimate Shabbos Umenucha? The ultimate Shabbos Umenucha is Mashiach times, Olam Haba. Whether they're the same or they're different, that's a discussion of the Gemara. It's not for us today. But the point is, we are living here in an Olam Hazeh. The Olam Hazeh is Sheishes Yamin Tavod. 6 days you should work, v'yosiso kol malachtecha, and do all your work. Uvayom hashvi Shabbos, l'Hashem Elokecha lo saseh kol malacha. But the 7th day is the Shabbos to Hashem. That's the ultimate day, the day where our souls go to repose. And over there, we're going to eat the fruits of all the labors that we did in the 6 days here in creation when we were able to do work. And so the Gemara is saying, you Goyim, you came to me and you said, give me a mitzvah, and we'll do it. But now it's Shabbos, and if you come to Shabbos and you didn't prepare, you're not going to have what to eat. So Hashem tells them, Misha Tarach Erev Shabbos, Yochal B'Shabbos. That's what he tells them. But Elo Afal Pikain, watch what Hashem, the merciful one, says to the nations of the world. Mitzvah Kale Yeshli. I have one easy mitzvah for you. One easy mitzvah. The Sukkah Shma. The name of that mitzvah is Sukkah. It's an easy mitzvah. Rashi says that the reason it's an easy mitzvah is because it's Ein Bo Chsarin Kis. It doesn't have a tremendous loss of money. It's not a tremendous loss of money. You can take the leftover of the granary that you finished harvesting, and you make your sukkah using that. You don't have to spend a lot of money. All you need is a little schach that you get from the harvest. So go and make me a sukkah, right? So he says, the sukkah shma lechu v'asu osa. Go and do it. So the Gemara asks the question, Umi Motzes Amrit, Hachi, how could you say this? For Omar, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, My diksiv Hashem anochi mitzavcha hayom. I commanded you only in Olam Hazeh, now, before Mashiach. Hayom la'asosam, v'lo l'mocha la'asosam. It's only to do today, not tomorrow. Hayom la'asosam, v'lo hayom litol scharan. Today you do it, you can't do it now. Ella, but you're right. Even though they shouldn't have the right to do this, She'ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ba b'tlunya im b'riyosav. Hashem says that I don't want to come, that they should have kindness to me. I don't want to make they should have kindness. I didn't give them a chance. They'll have arguments. And now we're 5 lines from the bottom. Amai kari mitzvah kala. Why is it called an easy mitzvah? Mishum deles bechesarin kiss. It doesn't have a big loss of money. Miyad immediately says the Gemara. Now watch this. Watch this. We are now 4 lines from the bottom. Miyad immediately. Called echad ve'echad notel v'holech v'oses sukkah b'rosh gago. All the goyim, all the nations of the world, they said, yes, God is giving us a chance. We're going to make that sukkah. And they go up on their roof, or they go in the backyard, wherever they go. They make a sukkah, Central Park, Columbus Circle, whatever. They make a sukkah. And Hashem brings the sun out, and it burns on them like in the middle of the summer. And each and every one of them, every last one of the nations of the world, they said, well, sitting in the sukkah was so hot. In the sukkah, it was such a burden to sit in the sukkah. They went out of the sukkah, they gave a kick. Mavai, they gave a kick to the sukkah, right? And they left the sukkah. And he quotes a pasuk over here, Tilim Shenemar, as it says in the pasuk, Nenatka esmos rosemo, let's loosen the bonds, v'nashlicha mimenu avosemo, and let's throw off the yokes that God put on us. Who needs this? I don't want nothing to do with it. You can keep your olam haba. So the Gemara asks the question, Makdir, Hashem brought the sun with all of its strength. Why are you coming? If you said, I don't come with complaints to my creatures, why are you giving them a chance to come with complaints over here? Why did you make it so hot? He says, Mishum the Yisrael Nami. Because by the Jews also, top of the next daf, Zimnin, here it is, the Moshcha Lehut Kufas Tammuz. Many times when the make sukkah is very hot in the sukkah, like Tammuz, right? Ad Chaga, until the time of Sukkot. V'have Lehut Tzara, and the Jews have pain when they're sitting in the sukkah. So the Goyim, when they had pain, they ran out. And the Jews had pain. They were sitting in the sukkah, asked the Gemara, wait a minute. The Amar Rava didn't Rava say in the Gemara in Sukkah, mitztayer potter minha sukkah? We have a rule. If it's painful to sit in the sukkah, you're potter from the sukkah. What do you want from the Goyim? It was painful for them to sit in the sukkah. It was so hot. What do you want from them? So the Gemara answered, Nehi de potter, you're right. A Jew who sits in the sukkah and it's too hot, he is potter from the sukkah. If it's too cold, he is potter from the sukkah. If it's raining, he is potter from the sukkah. Ba'uti mimavati. Yeah. But when a Jew walks out of the sukkah and he says, oh, it's raining, I'll wait a half an hour, I'll wait 45 minutes, just let me make kiddush, have a small piece of bread. It's so hot, I can't stay here, but I'm not going to leave until I say kiddush, have a piece of bread. It's so cold, I can hardly stay here. I'm going to put a coat on. I'm going to have some hot cholent, warm me up a little bit. But let me not have to leave. And if I have to leave, he walks out, Nebuch, I feel so bad. Oh, Nebuch, I couldn't do the mitzvah. Ba'uti mimavati. Does he go out and give the sukkah a zetz, a kick, and knock it down? Chas v'sholom. So that's the difference. The nations of the world had a chance with an easy mitzvah. And what did they do? They knocked it down because they couldn't take even the slightest discomfort. A Jew gets discomfort when they get a mitzvah, and it's not such an easy mitzvah, and it becomes it's an easy mitzvah. To sit in the sukkah is a pleasure. It's one of the most favorite times of the year for the Jewish people. Zman Simchas Seinu. We love sitting in the sukkah. But if it gets a little unbearable, we walk out sadly. We are sad. Well, what did they do? They took the sukkah and gave it a kick. So here is what is called a mitzvah kala. So the Ben Azai comes along and he says, Have a rutz le mitzvah kala. I want you to run to do an easy mitzvah. Easy if it doesn't cost you any money. It's just a little bit, and it's not just a little bit, not so much money. It's a pleasure. It's enjoyable. You're sitting under the tzila dimnei nusa, the shade of faith. It shows how bitachon filled we are. That I recognize that I live not just for 8 days, but I live my whole life in temporary dwellings where we all live. Our whole lives are temporary dwellings. And when something comes our way, which is not so good in our estimation, we have two choices. We can do what Nochem Ish Gamzu did, which is Gam Zu L'Tova, or we can do like Rabbi Akiva did. In Shmaya L'Tavavid. Everything that happens and that God does is only done for good. Either way, I'm fine. Tov Hashem L'Kol. And even Gam Ki Elech, and even if, God forbid, I have to walk the gates al Moves in the valley of death, Lo Irara, I do not fear ki ata imadi, because you are with me. We don't go kicking down the sukkah. We don't go be meva'et, but we say what Ben Azai said. Everotz le mitzvah kala kivachamura. We run to do an easy mitzvah like a difficult mitzvah, because schar mitzvah, and schar avera, and one mitzvah brings another mitzvah. So tonight, we discussed the concept of doing a mitzvah that's easy and running towards it, and fleeing from an avera, because we don't want to have the schar of coming before HaKadosh Baruch Hu and say, hey, Yisrael, did you see how much I resisted temptation? Did you see all the power I had to resist temptation? And Hashem says, okay, but that's not doing a negative. That's not being positive. And our Torah is a positive Torah. It's a Torah of mitzvos masios. It's a Torah of doing, not of backhandedly not doing. And so Ben Azai is on the mark when he tells us to run to do this easy mitzvah and to flee from doing an Avera. Tomorrow, the last day where we're going to be discussing this particular Mishnah, we're going to focus on, once again, the difference between running to do and fleeing from, and what does it mean when we say the reward of a mitzvah is a mitzvah, and the reward of an Aveira is an Aveira? How do you make sense out of that? And we'll try to solve that in Yitzhak Hashem tomorrow. And now we go from here straight to our Mishnayos Shiur. And you're welcome to join us for the rest of the learning tonight, the Mishnayos and the